Okay, I want to talk about Antarctica
Mhm.
because I think this is going to be the new obsession.
One of the things I find most striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps, because we didn't discover it until 1820, and yet it's on maps drawn in the 1500s with great detail.
And the standard academic response to that is, look, Antarctica's been frozen for millions of years.
Now, what the is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s, which we know was based on older source maps when nobody knew it existed in the 1500s?
What the fuck indeed? But there's much more going on with the Antarctic than just unexplained ancient maps. Are you ready to descend down this rabbit hole with me? Let's go. So far, we've delved into the origin of the pyramids, the possibility of the Younger Dryas impact event, the lost history of the Amazon, and we even touched upon the mysterious and almost unknown ancient history of China. But now it's time to visit the driest, coldest, and possibly most desolate place in the world, Antarctica. Because people are just starting to realize that this frozen frontier potentially harbors unimaginable secrets. With the accelerated thawing of the ice caps, Antarctica is turning out to be much more than just a pile of ice. But how come we know so little about it? There are several solid reasons why the Antarctic has never been seriously researched before. The temperatures can drop to 89 degrees Celsius below zero. The ice is thicker than the Empire State Building, and at times, the sun doesn't set or rise for months on end. So it's fair to say that the Antarctic is not exactly the most welcoming place in the world. In fact, it is the exact opposite. Despite that, millions of animals have adapted to these conditions and call this place home. Probably the strangest fact about this icy realm is that it still has active volcanoes, the largest and most famous one certainly being Mount Erebus. But what about its history? Let's start with what we think we know. You know, the things we are being told by mainstream history. Supposedly, we didn't discover Antarctica until 1820, when a Russian expedition led by Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Mikhail Lazarev on the ships Vostok and Mirny. There were two expeditions at the same time, but the other one landed in the Antarctic a few days later. You might find some videos on YouTube that claim that it was Captain Cook who discovered the continent, but that is not true. He did go looking for it and even circumnavigated it. It is believed that he came to about 80 miles from the landmass, but he never actually saw it, let alone map a part of its coastline, as they say. So, be careful about stuff you learn from YouTube. Heck, even I might be an AI bot just talking nonsense. You just never know. In addition to the late discovery of this continent, its extreme isolation and treacherous elements make it one of the most unwelcoming places on the planet. Even today, it is only inhabited by a handful of scientists living in remote research stations. But in the past decade, we've seen a massive rise in interest in the Antarctic. On one side, researchers and enthusiasts, like Graham Hancock, have started promoting the idea that ancient maps from the 1500s actually depict the Antarctic, hundreds of years before we even discovered it. I have to be honest here. The thing that first led me into the lost history rabbit hole was when I saw Graham Hancock talk about the Piri Reis map. My imagination was tickled, and I couldn't stop searching for answers ever since. Like any rabbit hole, the more you go in, the deeper it goes. But whether or not those ancient maps are real, or if they even represent Antarctica, is a topic that deserves a separate video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that one. It's coming up soon, and it's gonna blow your mind. Apart from the maps, new research came up, showing that the Antarctic used to be covered by a lush rainforest, and that the miles-thick layer of ice is actually hiding mountains, valleys, and even a network of freshwater lakes and river streams. But what's even more intriguing is the possibility that there are man-made structures hiding under this icy realm, and we are beginning to see them with the use of state-of-the-art equipment. So now, let's take a step away from the so-called fringe theories and see how the newest scientific discoveries in the Antarctic are changing our understanding of the frozen continent. In 2014, a team of scientists from the University of Bristol's Glaciology Center, led by Dr. Neil Ross, published a remarkable discovery. They found that there was a valley the size of the Grand Canyon, hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. This thing is so huge that it can be seen from space, despite being covered by several kilometers of thick ice. But that's not the only thing the researchers have found. This discovery alerted explorers to the fact that the ice sheets were receding, which improved the visibility of Earth-penetrating radars, giving us a better view of what might lie beneath. Experts are starting to see strange shapes in the satellite images, prompting some of them to theorize that they are man-made because of their rectangular shape, which rarely happens in nature.
Large-scale, complex archaeological sites. So they're not small hunting villages and pit houses. These look like advanced technological civilizations that we're seeing underneath the ice. One of the reasons this is a problem for historians is because the ice sheet in Antarctica originated most recently. We've had multiple ice sheets, the most recent about 20,000 years ago.
So now we have to find out whether that is true, and if it is, who was there 20,000 years ago, and how were they able to build such massive structures? But there is also the question of what role, if any, does that play in the history and mythology of mankind? Reports keep coming about supposed man-made structures being found under the ice, but so far, no concrete evidence has been discovered. Of course, some people immediately brought Atlantis into the equation. Some of these images look really compelling, I must say.
The only problem is, can we interest archaeologists to spend good money to go to Antarctica to investigate these sites? I think it's possible that as the ice starts to melt in Antarctica, which it is doing more and more, that it will reveal structures. And if this is the case, those structures have probably been buried in the ice for tens of thousands of years.
Satellite images already uncovered strange pyramid-like structures in the Antarctic. We're still far from exploring the frozen continent fully. So experts are still debating if these structures were man-made, or just the consequence of thousands of years of weather erosion. What do you think? Recently, a friend asked me,
"So what if our ancestors inhabited the Antarctic when it was still green and fertile? Who cares?"
well, everyone should care. If it turns out to be true, it will change our whole concept of human history. Let me explain. Mainstream history believes all modern humans originated from Africa. They migrated north to Europe and east to Asia, Australia, and eventually even the Americas. However, new evidence based on genetic testing shows that this story is much more complex than previously thought.
Most academics believe that all Native American people, no matter where you find them, that all of their ancestors came across the Bering Land Bridge, and that they all only had 4 genotypes, A, B, C, and D. But we've tested 3 of these so far, and they are not A, B, C, or D. They show ancestry either from Europe or the Middle East, or the Middle East people who moved to Europe. So that completely blows the theory that there was only one way to get to the Americas in pre-Columbian times.
So what this guy is actually saying is that people were sailing the oceans thousands of years ago. That means they had the navigational capabilities to circumnavigate the planet long before Columbus or even the Vikings happened to set foot on the American continents.
We've been taught so little in school about the history of humanity, and academics have a tendency to not talk to indigenous people about their own history. They think they made their stories up about where their ancestors came from.
I've mentioned that scientists have discovered that there are rivers and freshwater lakes hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. Well, the next step was to find out what was really there. So the researchers on the Ross Ice Shelf drilled 500 meters through the ice, and what they found blew them away. They lowered the camera and, first, they thought there was a malfunction because they kept getting interference. But soon it struck them that what they were seeing were actually hundreds of small aquatic organisms that flooded the camera lens. It turned out the lakes under the ice were teeming with life, which was just astonishing. There's a whole ecosystem previously unknown to science. Who knows what else they'll find? I personally hate the cold, but the Antarctic is proving to be a truly remarkable place. So I am sure we will return there again when something new is discovered. So be sure to subscribe and join me again next time as we take another bite out of history, just to see what it's made of.